The Shire is quiet. The lanterns are glowing. Welcome back to the Hobbit's hideout, where stories grow like leaves on the party tree. Hello, friends. Today we find ourselves seeking refuge in the most beloved of all Hobbit holes, where thick walls and warm hearths have sheltered generations from whatever darkness might wander the world beyond. Before we step across that familiar green door together, let's pause, take a long, deep breath, and let the weight of your day settle like dust on an old road. You've earned this sanctuary, this moment of perfect safety. Feel the solid earth beneath you, smell the lingering warmth of a well-tended fire. If this tale brings you comfort or reminds you of your own safe havens, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let me draw you into this evening's refuge. The Shire is quiet. The lanterns are glowing. Welcome back to the Hobbit's hideout, where stories grow like leaves on the party tree. Hello, friends. Today we find ourselves seeking refuge in the most beloved of all Hobbit holes, where thick walls and warm hearths have sheltered generations from whatever darkness might wander the world beyond. Before we step across that familiar green door together, let's pause, take a long, deep breath, and let the weight of your day settle like dust on an old road. You've earned this sanctuary, this moment of perfect safety. Feel the solid earth beneath you. Smell the lingering warmth of a well-tended fire. If this tale brings you comfort or reminds you of your own safe havens, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let me draw you into this evening's refuge. The round green door of Bag End closes with a satisfying click behind you, and immediately the world transforms into something altogether more precious and protected. The September evening outside carries whispers of change. Leaves beginning their slow dance toward autumn, shadows growing longer with each passing day, the first hints of harvest time and the crisp edge to the air. But here, within these curved walls that have stood for generations like a fortress, carved from the living hill itself, time moves according to different laws entirely. The Hobbit hole breathes with familiar contentment, every timber and stone worn smooth by decades of peaceful living, every corner rounded and comfortable, as if shaped by the very dreams of those who have called this place home. The walls themselves seem to pulse gently with accumulated warmth, not just from the fires that have burned in these hearths through countless winters, but from the deeper heat that comes from being truly, completely loved. You find yourself standing in the entrance hall, where the late afternoon light filters through small, perfectly round windows like golden coins scattered across the polished wood floor. Each beam of sunlight carries with it the essence of the Shire itself, the scent of growing things, the promise of good soil and patient seasons, the fundamental rightness of a world where the greatest concerns are the ripening of apples and the proper timing of afternoon tea. The walls curve gracefully around you, following the natural contours of the hill with an organic flow that speaks of builders who understood that the best homes work with the earth rather than against it. Everywhere there are signs of a life not just well lived, but lived with attention to detail and genuine care for the small beauties that make existence a joy rather than mere survival. Walking sticks rest in their proper stands, each one polished smooth by years of faithful service on rambles through meadows and woods where danger is nothing more than the possibility of getting one. Feet wet in an unexpected stream. Cloaks hang on wooden pegs, their fabrics soft with age, and wear each one carrying in its folds a memory of countless journeys to market in, buy water to visit friends in Hobbiton's other holes, to attend the seasonal festivals. That marked the turning of the year, with celebrations as regular and comforting as sunrise. The very air carries the sweet scent of beeswax from furniture lovingly maintained through countless seasons, each piece rubbed and polished until it glows with a deep luster that speaks of genuine pride in one's surroundings. Your footsteps whisper against the floorboards as you move deeper into the warren of comfortable rooms, each one revealing new aspects of a home that has been shaped by generations of inhabitants who understood that true luxury lies not in ostentation, but in the perfect marriage of beauty and comfort. The floors themselves seem to welcome your presence. Their boards fitted so precisely that they barely creak despite their age. Their surfaces worn to silk by the passage of countless feet walking the familiar paths of daily routine. The pantry door stands slightly ajar, and through the opening, you can see shelves that speak of abundance carefully gathered and lovingly preserved against the changing seasons. Earthenware jars line the walls like sentries, their glazed surfaces reflecting the warm light that filters in from the kitchen beyond. Each jar bears neat labels written in a careful hand, cataloging the treasures within. Preserved peaches that capture the essence of summer sunshine. Pickled vegetables that will bring the taste of garden freshness to winter meals, jams, and jellies that transform the simple act of breakfast into a celebration of the earth's generosity. Wheels of cheese rest on wooden shelves, wrapped in cloth that allows them to breathe while protecting them from dust and time. The very sight of them speaks of patience and craft of milk from cows that graze in meadows where the grass grows sweet and thick. Of the ancient arts of cultivation and preservation that turn simple abundance into lasting nourishment. Loaves of bread stand in neat rows, their crusts golden brown and still bearing the faint warmth of the morning's baking filling the air with an aroma that is perhaps the most comforting scent in all the world. The smell of grain transformed by fire and skill into the staff of life itself. The very air in the pantry tastes of honey and herbs, of safety and abundance, carefully gathered against whatever storms might come. Here is the essence of what makes the Shire special. Not just plenty, but plenty shared. Abundance that comes not from taking, but from the patient work of cultivation and care. Every jar, every wheel of cheese, every loaf of bread represents not just food, but the deeper nourishment that comes from living in harmony with the rhythms of the natural world. Moving into the kitchen, you're greeted by a space that serves as the heart of the home in the truest sense. Copper pots hang from hooks like old friends, waiting to be called into service, their surfaces burnished to mirror brightness by years of use and careful tending. Each pot has its purpose, its place in the great symphony of meal preparation that has played out in this room through countless seasons. The largest pot bears the slight dents and scratches that speak of soups simmered for family gatherings, of stews that warmed hearts as well as bodies during the coldest nights of winter. The great fireplace dominates one wall, its stones blackened by years of faithful service each, one fitted with the care of masons who understood that a hearth is more than just a source of heat. It is the spiritual center of any true home. Even now, a few embers glow beneath yesterday's ashes like sleeping dragons, ready to spring back to life at the first touch of kindling and breath. The mantelpiece above bears the accumulated treasures of daily life. A few favorite books whose pages have been turned by firelight during long winter evenings. A small collection of smooth stones gathered from favorite walking paths, a wooden bowl that holds the kind of everyday beauty that makes even the simplest meal feel like a feast. You can almost hear the gentle sounds that have filled this kitchen through the years. The bubbling of soup that has simmered here on countless evenings. Each pot a unique creation, born from whatever the garden and pantry had to offer, seasoned with the kind of love that cannot be measured or bought. The clink of dishes being washed in the deep stone sink, where hands have scrubbed away the evidence of meals shared with family and friends, where the simple act of cleaning up becomes a meditation on gratitude and care. The contented sighs of those who have found true nourishment within these walls, who have discovered that the best meals are made not just of ingredients, but of the company with whom they re-shared. A wooden table sits in the center of the kitchen, its surface scarred by years of use, but polished smooth by countless cleanings. This is where dough has been kneaded for thousands of loaves of bread, where vegetables have been chopped for countless soups and stews, where the daily alchemy of cooking has transformed simple ingredients into the magic of shared meals. The wood itself seems to hold the memory of all these activities, radiating a warmth that comes not from any fire, but from the accumulated love and care that has been poured into every meal prepared upon its surface. Shelves line the walls, holding the tools and implements that make this kitchen truly functional. Wooden spoons worn smooth by stirring, knives kept sharp for precise work, bowls in every size for every conceivable purpose. Each item has its place, its role in the great dance of meal preparation, and together they create a harmony of form and function that speaks of generations who understood that the tools we use daily should be both beautiful and practical. Windows set high in the kitchen walls allow the last light of afternoon to stream in, illuminating dust motes that dance in the air like tiny spirits celebrating the simple magic of home. Through these windows, you can see portions of the garden where herbs grow in neat rows, their leaves ready to be plucked fresh for whatever dish might be in preparation. The connection between garden and kitchen is seamless here, part of the greater harmony that makes Bag, and not just a house, but a complete ecosystem of comfort and sustenance. The study beckons next, welcoming you with its familiar embrace of knowledge and contemplation. This room serves as the intellectual heart of the Hobbit Hole, a space dedicated to the pursuit of learning and the preservation of wisdom for future generations. Shelves stretch from floor to ceiling, filled with books whose leather bindings speak of knowledge accumulated over lifetimes of careful study and passionate curiosity. The books themselves represent a library collected not for show, but for genuine love of learning. Here are volumes of history that chronicle the rise and fall of kingdoms, the stories of heroes and villains whose deeds have shaped the world beyond the Shire's borders. Collections of poetry rest beside practical manuals on gardening and cooking, reflecting the Hobbit understanding that beauty and utility are not opposing forces, but complementary aspects of a life well lived. Maps hang framed upon the walls, each one a window into distant lands and unknown possibilities. Some show places of wonder and beauty, the Grey Havens where ships sail into the sunset, the forests of Lothlorien where time moves differently than in the mortal world, the peaks of the misty mountains where eagles soar above the concerns of earthbound folk. Others mark paths that few have dared to travel, routes through wild lands where adventure and danger walk hand in hand, reminders that the world beyond the Shire's borders holds both marvels and perils in equal measure. A great armchair sits positioned perfectly to catch the last light of day, its leather cushions shaped by years of evening reading and quiet contemplation. The chair itself seems to invite rest, its arms worn smooth by the hands of countless readers who have settled into its embrace with a good book and the promise of hours lost in other worlds and other times. A small table beside it holds a reading lamp whose light has illuminated thousands of pages, and a ceramic mug that bears the faint stains of tea and cocoa shared with fictional characters during long winter nights. The desk in one corner of the study speaks of correspondence maintained with friends scattered across the Shire and beyond, of careful records kept of garden harvests and household expenses, of the thousand small details that make up a life lived with attention and care. Neat stacks of paper wait for the thoughts that will transform them into letters, journals, or perhaps stories of the kind that help preserve the best of life for those who come after. You settle into the great armchair and feel the day, as tensions begin to ease from your shoulders like snow melting in spring sunshine. The familiar weight of the chairs embrace the soft light filtering through windows designed to frame the view like living paintings. The gentle presence of thousands of books filled with the thoughts and dreams of writers long gone. All of it combines to create a sense of peace so profound it seems to rise from the very foundations of the Hobbit Hole itself. Through the study window, the garden stretches in peaceful array, each section planned and planted with the care of generations who understood that true beauty comes not from accident, but from the patient application of knowledge and love. Late roses climb over wooden arbors, their blooms releasing fragrances that speak of summer as last passionate display before the gentler beauties of autumn take the stage. Vegetable plots laid out with mathematical precision show the practical side of the hobbit character. Even beauty must earn its place by contributing to the welfare of those who tend it. Fruit trees heavy with their autumn bounty stand like generous guardians over the garden's eastern border, their branches bending under the weight of apples and pears that will grace tables throughout the coming months. Each tree represents not just fruit, but the kind of long-term thinking that plants today for harvests that will come years in the future. The hopeful faith that believes in tomorrow as abundance, even when today as seeds are barely visible in the soil. Beyond the garden fence, the familiar rolling hills of the Shire extend like a green ocean, their gentle swells dotted with the glowing windows of distant hobbit holes where other folk are settling into their own evening routines. Smoke rises from chimneys in thin columns that speak of fires being lit against the cooling air, of families gathering around tables where the day as experiences will be shared over simple meals prepared with love and attention. It is a scene of such perfect tranquility that you almost miss the first sign that something has begun to change in the quality of the twilight. The alteration is so subtle at first that it registers more as a feeling than an observation. A slight shift in the atmosphere that makes you look up from your contemplation of the peaceful landscape with new attention. The change begins as nothing more than a barely perceptible difference in the evening air itself. Perhaps it's the sudden stillness of birds that had been chattering in the hedge just moments before, their cheerful conversations cutting off mid-song, as if some invisible conductor had brought their evening performance to an abrupt halt. Or perhaps it is the way the light through the western window seems to dim just a moment too quickly for the natural progression of dusk. As if something between the sun and earth is absorbing the gentle radiance that normally bathes the Shire in golden peace. You lean forward in the chair, suddenly more alert despite the comfort of your surroundings, and peer through the glass with new intensity. The garden remains exactly as it was moments before, the roses still climbing their arbors, the vegetables still standing in their neat rows, the fruit trees still heavy with their autumn burden. Yet something in the air itself has altered, some indefinable quality that transforms the familiar view from a source of comfort into something that requires careful watching. The evening breeze that had been stirring the leaves in gentle conversation has died away, completely leaving a stillness that feels almost expectant, as if the very landscape is holding its breath in anticipation of something that has not yet revealed itself. Even the grass seems to stand straighter, the flowers to hold their heads more rigidly, as if all of nature has suddenly become aware that the usual rules of evening tranquility no longer apply. The grandfather clock in the hallway chooses this moment to chime the hour with its familiar bronze voice. But tonight, the sound seems to hang in the air longer than usual, each note echoing through the rooms of the hobbit hole with a resonance that feels almost mournful. Where normally the clock's voice brings comfort and the reassurance of time's steady passage, tonight it seems to mark not just the hour, but the end of something, perhaps the end of the kind of peace that the Shire has known for so long that its inhabitants have almost forgotten what it means to be truly afraid. You find yourself listening more carefully to the evening's symphony, noting each sound with the heightened awareness that comes when something indefinable has shifted in the world around you. There's the distant lowing of cattle being brought in for the night from the water meadows, but even this familiar sound carries a note of urgency tonight, as if the farmers who tend the herds have sensed something in the air that makes them eager to see their charges safely enclosed behind walls and fences. The creak of settling timber as the hobbit hole adjusts to the cooling air seems louder tonight, more pronounced, as if the very walls are tensing themselves for some test that has not yet arrived, but whose approach can already be felt in the bones of the building itself. Even the whisper of wind through the great oak tree that shelters the eastern wall carries an undertone that speaks not of gentle evening breezes, but of something more restless, more urgent, moving through the darkening landscape. All familiar sounds, yet tonight they seem to carry an undertone of unease, as if even the most ordinary elements of the Shire's evening chorus are aware that something foreign moves among them. The very air seems to thicken, taking on a quality that makes each breath require slightly more effort, as if the atmosphere itself is being pressed down by some enormous weight that exists just beyond the reach of ordinary perception. It's then that you hear it, so faint at first that you wonder if it might be nothing more than your imagination, playing tricks in the deepening shadows. A sound that doesn't belong to the peaceful evening routine of Hobbiton, that has no place in the gentle symphony of a world where the greatest disturbance is usually the passage of a farm cart returning from market with its load of goods and gossip. The measured beat of hooves upon the lane, but not the familiar clip-clop of farm horses returning from the fields with their patient gait, and the jingle of harness that speaks of honest work honestly done. Not the gentle plodding of ponies carrying their riders home from market and by water, their steps quick, and light with the eagerness of creatures who know that warm stables and good feed await them at journey's end. These hoofbeats are different, slower, more deliberate, carrying a weight of purpose that makes the hair on your arms stand on end like grass before a storm. They approach with the steady rhythm of riders who travel not for pleasure or commerce, not for any of the wholesome reasons that normally bring travelers along the roads of the Shire, but in pursuit of something that drives them forward through the gathering dusk with grim determination that knows neither rest nor mercy. The sound grows clearer now as you sit frozen in the study chair, no longer a whisper at the edge of hearing, but a steady drumbeat that seems to make the very earth tremble beneath the hobbit hole's foundations. There are several horses, you realize with growing alarm, moving in formation along the lane that winds past the front gate like a stream of darkness flowing through the heart of what has always been the most peaceful corner of the world. You rise from the chair, heart beginning to quicken with the first real fear you have felt within these walls, and move closer to the window with steps that seem to echo too loudly in the suddenly oppressive silence of the study. The sound of approaching hoofbeats grows clearer with each passing moment. No longer something that might be dismissed as the product of an overwrought imagination, but an undeniable reality that transforms the familiar evening landscape into something altogether more ominous. Peering through the small round window, you can see the road clearly in the last light of day. The familiar cobblestones gleam dully in the twilight, each one fitted with the care of craftsmen who understood that even roads should be built to last for generations, flanked by hedgerows that have grown wild and beautiful through decades of benign neglect. It's a scene you've looked upon countless times, finding comfort in its unchanging pastoral beauty, its promise that some things in the world remain constant, despite whatever changes might sweep through distant lands. But tonight, that beauty feels fragile, threatened by whatever approaches through the gathering darkness with such deliberate purpose. The very stones of the road seem different now, no longer markers of safe passage between familiar destinations, but potential witnesses to events that have no place in the Shire's long history of peaceful days and restful nights. The hoofbeats grow closer, and you step back from the window instinctively, some deep survival instinct warning you that being observed by whatever travels the roads on this evening would be most unwise. The sound they make is wrong somehow, too measured, too purposeful, lacking the random variations that mark the passage of ordinary travelers with ordinary concerns. You retreat to the corner of the study where the shadows are deepest, positioning yourself where you can still see the road while remaining hidden from view. The familiar books on their shelves, the maps on the walls, the comfortable chair where you had been reading just moments before, all of it seems suddenly vulnerable, exposed to whatever malevolence approaches along the road. It has always been a symbol of connection and community rather than threat. The first rider appears around the bend in the lane, like a figure from the darkest tales told around winter fires when the wind howls outside and children huddle closer to their parents for protection. Even in the dim light, there's something profoundly wrong about the shape that moves along the road with such terrible purpose. The horse is tall and gaunt, its gait unnaturally smooth, and silent, despite the sound of hooves that had announced its approach from such a distance. But it's the rider that makes your breath catch in your throat, and your hands tremble as they grip the windowsill with sudden desperation. Cloaked in black from head to foot, the figure sits its mount with a stillness that speaks of something far removed from ordinary. Humanity, something that belongs to realms where the sun never shines and joy is nothing more than a half-remembered dream. The cloak seems to absorb what little light remains in the evening air, creating a void in the shape of a man that hurts to look at directly, as if your eyes rebel against perceiving something that violates the natural order of the world. Where a face should be beneath the hood, there's only shadow, not the comfortable darkness of night that brings rest and peace, but something deeper and more final, a darkness that speaks of endings with no hope of new beginnings. A second rider follows the first, then a third, and you realize with growing horror that a full company of these dark figures is passing along the lane that has always been a symbol of safety and community. They move with terrible purpose, their hooded heads turning slowly from side to side as they survey the peaceful landscape with an attention that seems to strip away all comfort and security from the familiar sights of home. Each rider is a study in menace, their very presence transforming the evening air into something thick and oppressive that seems to press against the windows of the Hobbit hole like a physical weight. Their horses move with the same unnatural silence, their hooves touching the cobblestones without the normal sounds of shod feet on stone, as if they travel in a bubble of wrongness that muffles even the most basic interactions with the physical world. One of the riders brings his mount to a halt directly before the Hobbit hole's gate, and you press yourself deeper into the shadows of the study corner heart, hammering against your ribs so loudly you recertain it must be audible even through the thick walls that have always seemed impregnable. The figure sits motionless in the saddle, and though you cannot see its face beneath the hood, you feel the weight of its attention like a physical presence pressing against the very stones of the foundation. The sensation is unlike anything you have ever experienced, not merely the feeling of being watched, which would be disturbing enough, but something far more invasive and threatening. It's as if those hidden eyes can see through walls, through flesh, into the very essence of what makes you who you are. The rider's attention feels like cold fingers probing at the edges of your soul, searching for something that you pray they will never find. The horse tosses its head, and in the movement you catch a glimpse of eyes that reflect no light, that seem to hold depths of coldness no living creature should possess. They are the eyes of something that has looked upon the ending of all things, and found satisfaction in the sight. Eyes that have never known the warmth of sunlight, or the comfort of genuine affection. Its breath mists in the cooling air, but the vapor carries no warmth. Only the chill of winter mornings, when frost kills the last flowers and sends all living things seeking shelter from the killing cold. The very air around the dark company seems to thicken and congeal, taking on a quality that makes breathing difficult and thinking even more so. It's as if their presence draws all warmth from the world, leaving behind only the bone-deep cold of spaces between the stars, where no life has ever flourished and no hope has ever taken root. Minutes pass like hours as the dark rider studies the Hobbit hole with an intensity that makes your skin crawl and your thoughts scatter like leaves before a hurricane. You can hear your own breathing loud as thunder in your ears, and you wonder if somehow that terrible awareness might detect, even so small, a sound through walls they have always seemed capable keeping out any threat the world might offer. Every shadow in the room seems deeper now, every familiar object somehow changed by the presence of malevolence just beyond the walls. The books on their shelves, the maps on the walls, the comfortable furniture that has always spoken of safety and rest. All of it appears suddenly fragile, temporary, as if it might be swept away by the merest gesture from the terrible figure that waits outside the gate with such patient menace. The rider's hooded head turns slowly, taking in every detail of the Hobbit hole's exterior with the methodical attention of a predator, cataloging the weaknesses of its prey. The round green door with its polished brass fittings, the neat garden with its rows of late vegetables, the windows that glow softly with the warm light of home. All of it passes under that hidden scrutiny, like evidence being gathered for some unthinkable purpose. You can almost feel those concealed eyes cataloging each detail, searching for some sign of what they seek among the innocent domesticity of a place, where the greatest excitement is usually the arrival of the weekly post or the announcement of a neighbor's engagement. A contrast between the wholesome normalcy of the hobbit hole, exterior, and the absolute wrongness of the figure that studies it creates a tension so severe it seems the very air might crack under the strain. Behind the motionless leader, the other riders wait with the patience of hunters who measure time not in moments, but in ages, for whom urgency is a concept as foreign as mercy or compassion. Their horses stand silent as statues carved from shadow, only the occasional toss of a head or switch of a tail revealing that they possess any spark of life at all. Even these small movements seem wrong somehow, too mechanical, too purposeful, lacking the random vitality that marks the actions of living creatures. The very air around them seems colder, as if their presence draws all warmth from the world and leaves only the chill of spaces between the stars where no sun has ever shone and no voice has ever sung in celebration of life's simple joys. The evening mist that has begun to rise from the cooling earth seems to recoil from their vicinity, creating strange eddies and currents in the air that speak of natural forces, disturbed by the presence of something that has no place in the ordinary world. You find yourself holding your breath, afraid that even the slight movement of your chest might somehow betray your presence to the terrible awareness that probes the hobbit hole as defenses, like a surgeon's knife exploring a wound. The study around you, so recently a haven of comfort and learning, now feels exposed and vulnerable, as if its walls have become transparent under the weight of that searching malevolence. Every book on its shelf, every map on the wall, every familiar object that has always spoken of safety and civilization seems to stand naked before that terrible scrutiny. The very air in the room feels thinner, less substantial, as if the rider's presence is somehow draining it of the qualities that make it fit for breathing by ordinary folk who have never known the touch of absolute evil. But the hobbit hole holds its secrets well, proving once again that the builders of this place understood more about defense than mere stone and timber. Built into the living hill itself, its walls are thick with earth and stone, its windows small and deep set, designed more for coziness than for display. The darkness within works in your favor now, hiding you in shadows, while the last light of evening reveals the riders to your terrified gaze, but conceals you from theirs. The leader's mount paws the ground once, a sound that echoes strangely in the still air, and you catch a whiff of something that makes your stomach turn with instinctive revulsion. Not the honest smell of horse and leather that should accompany travelers, not the earthy sense of roads and weather that mark those who journey for ordinary purposes, but something cold and metallic that speaks of realms where the very air has been poisoned by the presence of absolute corruption. It's the smell of battlefields where no grass will ever grow again, of places where hope has died so completely that even the memory of what it meant to hope has been scoured from the very stones. It carries with it the essence of endings, not the natural endings that mark the completion of a full life well lived, but the kind of termination that cuts short all possibility, all potential, all future joy before it has a chance to bloom. Other riders move past the gate, now their attention focused on different aspects of the surrounding landscape, with the methodical thoroughness of searchers who have all the time in the world and infinite patience to spend in pursuit of their quarry. One pauses before the cottage across the lane, its head cocked as if listening for sounds that ordinary ears could never detect, seeking signs of life or movement that might indicate the presence of what they hunt with such relentless determination. Another surveys the orchard behind the hobbit hole, where apple trees heavy with fruit stand in neat rows that speak of generations of careful tending. Even these peaceful trees seem to shrink back from the rider's attention, their leaves rustling in a wind that touches nothing else, as if the very vegetation recognizes the presence of something that stands in absolute opposition to growth, to life, to all the forces that nurture and sustain the natural world. You can hear them now, voices speaking in whispers that seem to scrape against the very air like fingernails drawn across stone. The words are in no language you recognize, but their meaning needs no translation. These sounds carry in them the essence of menace distilled to its purest form, the vocal equivalent of winter winds that strip all life from the landscape and leave behind only the barren bones of what once flourished under gentler skies. The conversation, if it can be called that, continues for what feels like an eternity, each whispered syllable falling into the evening air like drops of poison into a clear stream. The riders exchange information with the efficient communication of hunters who have worked together for so long that they can coordinate their efforts with minimal discussion, their shared purpose binding them together in a way that mocks every wholesome fellowship that has ever gathered around a table or fireside. You press yourself against the wall of the study, grateful beyond measure for the solid stone and earth that separates you from whatever consultation takes place in the road beyond. The walls themselves seem to pulse with protective strength drawing, their power not from any magic of wizards or enchanters, but from something far more fundamental, the accumulated love and care of all who have called this place home, the deep roots of belonging that anchor the Hobbit Hole to the very heart of what makes the Shire a place, apart from the harsher regions of the world. Gradually, the whispers fade, and you sense a shift in the attention of the dark company. Some decision has been reached, some conclusion drawn from their observation of the peaceful Hobbit Hole and its sleeping neighbors. The leader's hooded head turns one final time toward Bag End, and for a heart-stopping moment, you recertain those hidden eyes have found you despite the darkness and the thick walls that have always been your protection. The sensation of being seen, truly seen, by something that exists in absolute opposition to everything you hold dear, is perhaps the most terrifying experience a soul can endure while still retaining any hope of sanity. It is as if those concealed eyes can peer not just through physical barriers, but through the very fabric of reality itself, examining your essence with the dispassionate interest of a scientist studying a particularly interesting specimen. But whatever awareness probes the shadows finds nothing to hold its interest for long. The Hobbit Hole keeps its secrets, as it always has, its walls proving once more that some defenses are built not from steel and stone alone, but from the accumulated faith of generations, who trusted in the power of home to stand against whatever darkness might threaten the world beyond its borders. Slowly, so slowly you think you might faint from holding your breath, the rider urges his mount forward along the lane. The movement breaks the terrible stillness that has held the evening in its grip, and you feel something like relief beginning to stir in your chest, though you dare not fully embrace the emotion until the dark company has truly departed. The others follow in the same deliberate formation, their passage marked by the muffled sound of hooves on packed earth and the whisper of cloaks that seem to absorb not just light, but sound itself. They move like a piece of the night itself, given form and purpose, a fragment of absolute darkness that somehow maintains coherence despite being surrounded by a world that still remembers what it means to hope and love and celebrate the simple joys of existence. You remain frozen in your corner, hardly daring to believe they are truly leaving, that the nightmare figures that had turned your peaceful evening into a scene from the darkest tales told by winter firesides are actually moving away from your sanctuary. The sound of hoofbeats fades gradually, growing fainter as the dark company continues its search along roads that lead deeper into the Shire's heart, carrying their hunt to other communities that have never known such visitation. But even when the last echo has died away into the gathering night, you remain pressed against the wall, listening for any sign that one of the riders might have turned back. might even now be approaching the hobbit hole on foot with the silent tread of a hunter closing on its prey. The silence that follows their departure is almost as oppressive as their presence had been, filled with the kind of tension that comes when the absence of danger is too recent to be fully trusted. Long minutes pass before you finally dare to move from your hiding place, and when you do, your legs shake slightly as if you have been standing in the cold for hours rather than crouching in the warm comfort of the study. Your heart still pounds with the rhythm of fear, but gradually it begins to slow as the familiar sights and sounds of the hobbit hole reassert themselves in your consciousness. When you peer cautiously through the window, the lane appears empty in the gathering darkness, restored to its familiar role as a peaceful thoroughfare between neighbors rather than a highway for creatures that belong in the realm of nightmares. The familiar cobblestones gleam weightly in the night air. When had it begun to mist? And the hedgerows rustle softly in a breeze that has returned as if nothing had ever disturbed the Shire's eternal peace. But you know what you have seen, and the knowledge changes everything about the world beyond these walls. The Shire, which had always seemed like a place apart from the troubles that plagued less fortunate lands, has been touched by something that belongs to the realm of ancient fears and half-remembered nightmares. The riders were real, solid as stone, and terrible as winter, and they had paused at your very gate with their dark purpose burning like cold fire in the shadows beneath their hoods. The realization settles over you like a heavy blanket, transforming your understanding of the world in ways that can never be completely undone. The peace of the Shire, which had seemed as permanent and unchangeable as the hills themselves, has revealed itself to be something more fragile, more precious, more dependent on forces beyond the borders of this green and pleasant land. Yet even as this knowledge weighs upon your spirit, you find yourself moving through the Hobbit hole's familiar rooms with new awareness, seeing them now not just as comfortable living spaces, but as fortress walls that have proven their worth against the ultimate test. Every curved doorway, every thick timber beam, every stone in the foundations seems like a miracle of protection and safety, a bulwark against the kind of evil that most folk never encounter outside the pages of old books and ancient songs. The place that had been home is revealed now as sanctuary in the truest sense, not just a dwelling, but a refuge that stands inviolate against whatever darkness might threaten the world beyond its borders. The builders of this place understood something that goes deeper than mere architecture, something about the power of love and care, an accumulated blessing to create spaces where evil cannot take root, where malevolence finds no purchase on walls blessed by generations of peaceful dreams. In the kitchen, you light a candle with hands that barely tremble, marveling at how such a simple action can drive back shadows that suddenly seem less menacing and more like old friends keeping watch in familiar corners. The small flame dances bravely in the still air, its golden light transforming the copper pots into beacons of normalcy, their burnished surfaces reflecting the warm glow like mirrors that show only the best of the world they survey. The very act of lighting the candle becomes a ritual of reclamation, a way of asserting that this space belongs to light and warmth, and that countless small ceremonies that make up a life well lived. Each pot, each wooden spoon, each carefully arranged shelf speaks of meals prepared with love, of nourishment shared with friends, of the kind of abundance that comes not from hoarding, but from the generous sharing of whatever gifts the earth provides. When you open the pantry door, the familiar sense of preserved peaches and fresh bread remind you that some things are too good, too real, too rooted in the earth's honest abundance to be touched by passing nightmares. The jars of honey glow like captured sunlight in the candlelight, each one a testament to the patient work of bees, who know nothing of evil, who spend their days in the simple pursuit of sweetness, drawn from flowers that bloom under benevolent skies. The wheels of cheese rest on their wooden shelves like monuments to the partnership between human craft and natural abundance, each one representing months of careful tending. Of milk transformed through ancient arts into something that can sustain and nourish through the lean months of winter. The very sight of them speaks of a world where patience is rewarded, where care and attention create treasures that evil cannot spoil or steal. Loaves of bread stand in neat rows, their crusts still bearing the faint warmth of the morning's baking filling the air, with an aroma that is perhaps the most powerful magic in all the world, the smell of grain transformed by fire and skill into the staff of life itself. Here is the essence of civilization, the fundamental alchemy that allows communities to flourish and grow, to build something lasting and beautiful from the raw materials the earth provides. You brew a cup of tea with leaves that have grown in gardens where no shadow falls, and the ritual of measuring and steeping and waiting helps steady your nerves in ways that mere courage never could. The familiar motions, the careful selection of leaves, the precise timing of the steeping, the gentle steam that rises from the cup like incense offered to the gods of home and hearth. All of it serves to anchor you back in the world of ordinary blessings and simple pleasures. The china cup is warm between your palms, painted with tiny flowers that bloom eternal in their glaze, each petal a small defiance against the forces that would drain all beauty from the world. The tea tastes of all the patient seasons that have tended these hills since before memory began, sunshine and gentle rain. Spring mornings when the world wakes green and clean, autumn afternoons when the air carries the promise of harvest and the satisfaction of work well done. As you settle into the study, its most comfortable chair, the same chair where you had first sensed the change, in the evening air, the events of the past hours begin to feel almost dreamlike in their intensity. The familiar weight of the leather cushions, the soft light that filters through windows, designed to frame the view like living paintings. The gentle presence of thousands of books filled with the thoughts and dreams of writers long gone. All of it combines to create a sense of reality so solid and comforting that the darkness you witnessed begins to seem like something from another world entirely. Perhaps they were nothing more than shadows cast by evening clouds, your imagination transforming ordinary travelers into creatures of nightmare. Perhaps the Shire's deep peace has never truly been threatened at all. And what you witnessed was merely the kind of vision that comes to those who spend too many evenings reading tales of distant lands and ancient evils that have no place in a world where the greatest concern is usually whether the tomatoes will ripen before the first frost. But whether real or imagined, the experience has left you with a profound appreciation for the sanctuary that surrounds you, a deeper understanding of just how precious and rare true safety really is. Every book on its shelf represents not just knowledge, but the accumulated wisdom of generations who understood the value of learning, of preserving the best thoughts and discoveries of the past for those who would come after to build upon and improve. Every stick of furniture worn smooth by years of use speaks of the countless lives that have found comfort within these walls, of the endless succession of days and nights when ordinary folk have gone about the business of living with the secure knowledge that they are protected, cherished, held safe by walls that know their business and take pride in it. The very stones of the foundation seem to pulse with protective strength, drawing their power not from any magic of wizards or dark lords, but from something far more fundamental and enduring, the deep enchantment of home itself, of places where love has lived so long it is soaked into the very mortar between the stones. This is the magic that the riders could not penetrate, the force that turned aside their searching malevolence and left them to continue their hunt elsewhere. The candle burns lower as you sit in contemplation, its light dancing across familiar objects and casting gentle shadows that speak only of comfort and peace. The grandfather clock chimes again, its bronze voice now restored to its familiar warmth, marking the passage of hours that belong fully to safety. And sanctuary, time that moves according to the gentle rhythms of a world where terror has no permanent place. Outside, the night has settled over the Shire like a blessing, and whatever rode the roads in search of prey has moved on to hunt in distant lands where the walls are not so thick, the foundations not so deep, the accumulated love not so strong. The mist that rises from the cooling earth carries only the honest sense of grass and growing things of a landscape that knows itself, to be blessed and protected by forces older and stronger than any darkness that might seek to disturb its peace. You find yourself thinking of all the others who have sat in this very chair, who have watched candlelight play across these walls, who have found safety and solace within the hobbit hole's embrace when the world beyond seemed too harsh to bear. Generations of folk have called this place home, have raised their children within its protection, have grown old and wise in the knowledge that some places in the world remain forever, untouched by the troubles that plague less fortunate souls. Each previous inhabitant has added something to the protective atmosphere of the place, a prayer whispered in times of worry, a song hummed while working in the garden, a story told by firelight to children who would carry the memory of safety and love into their own adult years. The walls themselves seem to hold these accumulated blessings, radiating them back to whoever seeks shelter within their embrace. Tonight you have become part of that long tradition, another soul who has found sanctuary when sanctuary was needed most in other heart, that has learned to trust in the strength of walls built not just from stone and timber, but from the accumulated love and care of all who have sheltered here before. The Hobbit Hole has kept its promise once again, proving that the simplest magics are often the most powerful of all. The knowledge settles into your bones like warmth spreading from a well-tended fire, the understanding that you are connected now to something larger than yourself, part of a chain of protection and care that stretches back through generations and will continue long after your own time has passed. This is what it means to truly belong somewhere, to be part of something that endures beyond the span of any single life. The clock chimes the late hour, and you realize that the night's adventure has left you deeply, peacefully tired. It's the good exhaustion that comes after fear has passed and safety has been proven beyond all doubt. The kind of weariness that speaks not of depletion, but of a spirit that has been tested and found its rest in the knowledge of protection that cannot be shaken by any force the world might send against it. Your eyelids grow heavy as you sit surrounded by the protective embrace of the hill, and you understand that no better place exists in all the world for the kind of rest that reaches down to the very soul, that restores not just the body, but the spirit itself. The books on their shelves seem to whisper of peaceful dreams, their leather bindings worn smooth by the hands of countless readers who have found solace in their pages during times of worry and uncertainty. The maps on the walls speak of journeys that always lead back home, of adventures that are made meaningful not by the dangers faced, but by the promise of return to places where love waits with the patience of eternity. Every familiar object in the room radiates the deep contentment of things that know their place and purpose in the order of the world, that find their meaning not in themselves, but in their service to the comfort and happiness of those who call this place home. You blow out the candle with a gentle breath, but the darkness that follows is nothing like the menacing shadows that had ridden the roads earlier in the evening. This is the soft darkness of safety, of walls that know their business and take pride in performing it well, of a sanctuary that has proven itself against whatever the world might send. The familiar darkness of home, where every shadow is a friend and every sound speaks of protection rather than threat. The Hobbit Hole settles around you like a blessing as you make your way through rooms you know by heart, each step taking you deeper into the refuge that has shown its worth beyond all questioning. The floorboards whisper beneath your feet with the voices of all who have walked these paths before, each one adding their footsteps to the accumulated history of safe passage through rooms where danger cannot follow. The hallway stretches before you like a gentle tunnel leading to rest and restoration, its curved walls embracing you with the familiarity of old friendship. Pictures hang at precisely the right height to catch your eye as you pass each one, a window into moments of joy and contentment captured and preserved for times when the spirit needs reminding of what makes life worth living. The bedroom welcomes you with quilts sewn by hands that understood the value of comfort, each stitch placed with care, and attention to detail that speaks of love made manifest in fabric and thread. The mattresses are stuffed with down from birds that flew only over hills where sorrow is a stranger, where the very air carries the promise of peaceful sleep and dreams unmarked by fear or worry. Moonlight filters through the small windows, silver and gentle, speaking of the eternal dance of seasons and the enduring peace of places where order and kindness have taken root so deeply that nothing can disturb their foundations. The moon itself seems to smile down upon the Shire with particular fondness, as if it knows this corner of the world to be special, deserving of its most gentle light. As you settle beneath covers that smell of lavender and sunshine, the walls around you seem to exhale in contentment, sharing the deep satisfaction of a duty well performed. Every timber beam, every stone in the foundation, every inch of earth that embraces the hobbit hole participates in the quiet celebration of another soul safely sheltered, another heart at peace in the place where peace was born and where it makes its eternal home. The very air in the room carries the essence of accumulated blessings, the breath of countless peaceful nights when sleep came easily and dreams brought only joy. The pillow beneath your head seems to whisper of all the restful hours it has supported, of all the weary travelers who have found in this bed the perfect rest that makes all journeys worthwhile. Outside, the night sounds of the Shire create a gentle symphony of peace, the distant call of an owl announcing its presence to the world, the rustle of small creatures going about their nocturnal business in the hedgerows, the whisper of wind through leaves that have never known the touch of malice or fear. All of it combines to create a lullaby that seems composed specifically for this moment, this place, this perfect ending to a day that began in peace and returns to peace despite all that has passed between. The last thing you hear before sleep claims you is the sound of the hobbit hole itself, the gentle creaking of wood that has sheltered countless dreams, the whisper of air moving through rooms where only good thoughts are allowed to linger, the patient heartbeat of a home that has stood against darkness and emerged victorious once more. These sounds weave themselves into a lullaby older than memory, a song of sanctuary that has welcomed the weary home since the first hobbit hole was carved into the first green hill. And as you drift toward dreams, you carry with you the knowledge that some places in this world remain forever safe, forever good, forever ready to shelter those who seek refuge from whatever storms might rage beyond their doors. The dark riders have passed their hunt, has moved on to trouble other lands, and you rest secure in the certainty that morning will come as mornings always have, bringing with it the renewal of hope and the promise of another day in the heart of the Shire. Sleep comes softly now, like mist rising from peaceful waters on a summer morning. Your breathing slows to match the gentle rhythm of the hill itself, and all around you, the hobbit hole keeps its ancient vigil, watching over those who trust in its strength, proving once again that the greatest magic in all the world is the simple power of home to stand against whatever darkness might threaten the light. The night deepens around your sanctuary like a protective cloak, and in rooms where peace has lived so long it has become part of the very air, dreams come gently and rest comes completely, as it always has and always will, in the place where love built walls that darkness cannot breach, where every stone knows its purpose, and every timber beam stands ready to bear whatever weight the world might place upon it. In your dreams, you walk through gardens where the sun always shines and the flowers never fade, where the path always leads to somewhere beautiful, and home is never more than a gentle stroll away, through meadows where the grass grows soft beneath your feet, and every breeze carries the scent of baking bread and blooming roses. The Shire sleeps in perfect peace. Your hobbit hole keeps faithful watch, and you rest now in the deepest safety the world has ever known, surrounded by walls that remember every blessing they have sheltered, every joy they have protected, Every dream they have kept safe through the long watches of the night, until morning calls you back to gardens bright with dew, and roads that lead only toward joy, and windows that frame nothing but beauty, in the place where darkness has no power, and love builds stronger than any stone. Thank you for sheltering with me in this haven of perfect peace, dear friend. Until our paths cross again beneath the party tree, may your own home hold you as safely as these ancient walls have held us tonight. Send word by raven if you have tales you'd like to hear from the Shire. And know that this sanctuary is always here, waiting to welcome you home whenever the world grows too weary to bear alone.